I came across something that is extremely important with this clutch. Alright, I have a little bit of a problem with my clutch. I have to push it all the way to the floor. Even though it's adjusted right, I have to push it all the way to the floor, but it's still not disengaging completely. It's I think hanging up on, I think I broke one of the bolts that mounts the pressure plate to the flywheel. I would have absolutely much rather been working on this, getting this back together again. Old iron head chopper, but I just really can't even live without this tractor anymore. And it's not so much the tractor itself, it's the hydraulics, it's the loader. I just use this thing all the time, not for digging dirt, but for lifting stuff. Lifting big heavy stuff. You know, I come home with something heavy. Just the other day, a big heavy wood splitter in the back of the truck. So I just roll up with the loader and lift it on out, drop it on the ground. Well, this kind of thing happens all the time. There's always something that I need these big hydraulic rams to lift something heavy. So priority number one, getting this clutch looked at. I know what the deal is. I have to do all of this just for one bolt. There's one broken bolt. And it's off. Holy. That worked. That's the first time I've ever had that loader off. Man, does it ever steer easy with no loader on the front. There's the rig. I don't think it's going to fall over. Looks fine. So here's my plan. The chain fall is sitting right over top of the transmission, the gearbox. And then I got lots of room up here to bring that cherry picker in, run it up over the top here, and run a strap underneath the engine. So it looks like taking this hood off is super easy. Just one bolt on both sides. Just wanted to make sure you know I did take the battery out first. That's the very, very first thing. Because my luck, this hood will drop down onto both posts and start a fire. Well, that wasn't hard. Okay, hoping that's the hardest part, getting that hood off. All right, let's get this gas tank off and then I can see like everything. Oh, we got a mouse nest up in there that's probably been there for several decades. So, time to clean that out. Note that the red wire's on the bottom, black wire's on the top when it goes back together. All right, here's another thing off. All right, I'm disconnecting this oil pressure line from the engine because it's easier to do down there. I think I keep myself organized here. There it is. Okay, the choke cable's in the way, so that's got to go. Okay, out you go. away with you. So there's a few things out of the way. What's this? There's some kind of sensor here. Oh, right. That's the kill. That's the wires for, so that I think you're supposed to be in a certain gear, or like I think it's, you got to be in neutral to start, or it won't start. So I think this is like a neutral switch. Anyways, moving along. Oh, I just realized I'm playing music back there. All right, I just filmed a bunch of stuff and had Jerry Lee Lewis playing in the background. And of course, you know, I'm trying to make millions off of Jerry Lee Lewis music on my little YouTube channel. So I gotta just point out what I did. All I did is disconnect the starter cable here, just hook it up there, and then the coil wire was on there, this little coil wire here. Oh, I didn't realize it was a, I took the nut right off. I didn't realize it was a, yeah. And then I got one more thing to do on this side, and that is the temperature sending unit. Did I not order a new one? Maybe what this is? Water temperature. It's probably for the tractor. How hard would it be to drop the antifreeze? Oh, that belt is terrible. That's soft and swollen. I got to replace that. No idea what's going on up here. Did I just call this a belt? Because if I did, I meant a hose. All right, just let that drain. Oh, there's a tab holding it. There, I guess I'm done. Okay, what else other than nuts and bolts? You know, I know the trailing arm, and I know the steering linkage, and I know the... What I'm going to do next is start with the steering and stabilizer bar. At first I thought, oh, I'll just take them off at the front. It's easy to get. But you know what? Now I got enough stuff off. I think it's easy to take it off at the back too. And then when I separate this thing, they'll be right out of the way. And it'll give me a chance to, you know, if I pull the cup, it's a ball and cup kind of setup here. If I pull the cup off of the bar on both sides, I can repack that with grease when I put it back together. Just about to give up looking for it when I found it. Also a tuning fork. All right, stop that. No. Oh my God. What about the top? Then will that arm come off? Probably not. All that is right on there. What the? All right, pickle fork worked. Here it goes. These might be a little too tight for this little wrench. It's working just fine. I should have really just removed this entire loader frame. Why did I think that I could just leave it on? It's completely and constantly in my way. There we go. And there's the ball. It's it has no grease on it, none whatsoever. There it goes, kind of. I like it. Nice new starter that the last fella put on, but I have to hit it with the hammer every now and then to get it to kick over. Okay, will that just slide out? It will. Anyway, are we good? 1, 2, 3, 4, and a bunch more. I'm gonna have to get the cherry picker in here soon. I think it's coming apart. There it goes. Whoa. Okay, wasn't quite ready for that, but it's apart. All right, so there's my problem right away. As soon as I opened up this case, see that spring in there? There's a bolt that goes through it that holds it to the clutch assembly, and there's no head on the bolt. If you look closely in between the loops of the spring, you'll see that it ends at some point. So It should be down in there somewhere. Probably back in there somewhere, but exactly what I thought it was. So might as well pull this apart the rest of the way here. Broken. So I've been pulling this clutch away from the flywheel on this side almost only. This side here is just, I don't know how it held together for so long with one broken bolt, but there. All that for one broken bolt. And where is it? Is it back in there? Oh yeah, it is. Can you see it? There we go. Can you see that? Probably not so much. Eh? Could that have been done from, oh, yeah, look at the inspection cover is tiny. Just tiny. I thought, well, maybe I could have just fixed it through that, right? And maybe a person could have, but I know I couldn't have. Well, this is exciting. That brand new clutch came pretty quick. All right, my new pilot bearing and release bearing. I'll bet you anything, though. What do you think? The odds are that it came with an alignment tool. Uh-oh. Where'd my blade go? Oh, boy. Holy, look at that. It's beautiful. But it looks different. Well, let's see what we got in the box. Yeehaw. Quick inspection. Make sure all the rivets look good. What else? There we go. There's where the big bucks are. Oh yeah. That's heavy. All right. Quick inspection. Probably should have done the inspection when I was in Toronto, but no. These are the stamped fingers that I need, same as the old one there. Look at that. Broken bolt. You know, I kind of thought for a minute, maybe I could just weld up the broken bolt or put a new one in or something like that, but, you know, I've got it all apart to fix that. I don't know. I mean, I suppose I could have taken the clutch off and inspect. You know what? No, while it's apart, just get a new one. Super expensive, twice as expensive as the other one, the later model, where they had forged fingers. These are stamped steel, twice as much. $1,000 sitting there for the whole deal. Like, holy. Oh, and I was fortunate enough while I was there for the fella to find me an alignment tool. Look at the size of that one. Holy. Anyways, looks like a rocket ship from the 60s. So yeah, the smaller bit is for the friction disc there. I'm not sure which one. This one will probably be for the drive, so the primary drive. And then the bigger one has the encased clutch. I can't really see it, but you can see the bigger hole for it. So yeah, and then of course the small bit on the end is for the pilot bushing, which goes in the flywheel, which I think I put out here somewhere. Yeah, it's there. So I'll get that guy pressed into place in the flywheel, and then I've got a release bearing, a new one. It goes up on the input shaft in the gearbox. Get that guy replaced. And then I'm good. Put her back together. Let's go. All right, first thing I want to do is I mean, it doesn't matter about this clutch, I'll get it off, but when I take the flywheel off, I need to mark that it's in the, when I put it back on, it's in the same position that it is now. Okay, the rest can come off. Okay, I think we're good. I'm just going to pop a little hole in the end of, like pop a little, I'll just use my center punch on that bolt so I know this mess and my mark lines up with that bolt. All right. Right in the center. Give it a little shot, and I can see there's a hole there now. Or not a hole, but a little divot to mark that. I don't know if you can see it, but I can. I'll loosen the top one, but I'll leave it till last. Oh, I'm gonna need a hammer. Because that's still, this nut is loose, but it must be pressed on somewhat, a little bit. Maybe I should go to the internet first and see how someone else did it. Nah, let's just wing it. Okay, it's tightened up there. Let's give it a whirl. Again, I'm going to use the impact. There it goes. Yep, it's tight up against the nut now. Let's get this off. Oh yeah. So I can take the last nut off. It's just sitting on the mounting bolts, so it's not going to go anywhere. Damn it. Off she goes. All right. All right, how to get this bearing out. Right there. All right, I'm on the wood, flat all the way around. Let's give it a little shot, see what happens. Oh, that moved. Nice, it's going out. Gone. Yeah, that is used up. It feels terrible. I mean, it might have lasted forever, but I doubt it. New one going in. Yeah, a press at this point would have been real nice, but it sits flat right on there. Nice. Yeah, that's it there. So I'll be real gentle with it and not get it cockeyed in here. Okay, it's a little bit crooked. Oh yeah. All right, let's check the other side. Beautiful. Nice. Okay, that mark is at the top of the wheel still. Okay, it's on. I'm just going to start one nut on there just a little bit without the washer, just to make sure this doesn't somehow find itself falling on the floor. There we go. And then let the nuts do the rest of the work. Washers first. Okay, it's in there. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna run in real quick and just check the torque spec of the flywheel and the clutch itself. Okay, it seems to be working. Let's give it a little bit of force. Oh yeah, it's getting tight. Just work my way around on 75 foot-pounds. Guy on the internet said 55 foot-pounds on the flywheel he did, but I don't know. I looked it up in my manual. It said 75, so I'm going with the manual. There's one. Okay, let's try that. There's 2, 3, 4. Here we go. All right, just to show you a little closer how I did that. You can see I put a little bit of rubber tubing on that top stud in the engine block, and then the hammer just kind of fit itself. Got the claw in one tooth, and it just sort of fit itself alongside this stud, and the handle just fit nicely down in between everything, so it wasn't in the way. But yeah, that worked, and look, I could just pull it right out of there. No problem. I noticed that this is so much longer that it would be impossible to go on that way. The clutch, the face of the clutch would never touch the flywheel, so it has to go on this way. So I'm going to grab my centering tool now, and throw it through the clutch and then through the pilot bearing, and that is lined up. Oh. I thought the clutch then would go on over top of all of this, but it can't. So I've got to do it all at once. Well, this is going to be hard. Run this whole assembly into the pilot bearing, like that. I'm thinking. Okay. Okay. I'll be able to pop that out shortly here. I'm going to torque these mounting bolts up to, I think it said 28 to 33 foot-pounds. So 30 pounds is fine. Oh, I don't think I like this. It broke. That broke. Okay, I got a new bag of clutch mounting bolts, but they're a little long. If I got them at the right length, you know, if I had them at the right length, they wouldn't have had the shoulder on them. But he said that no, we only have full threads this length. And I think maybe the shoulder is necessary, you know, to align the clutch. So yeah, I decided to get longer ones, and I'm just going to cut them off with the cutoff wheel. Okay, I just brought the 6 bolts back cut. Awfully hot on the fingers. These are grade 8 bolts as recommended by somebody on the internet. Of course, I trust everybody on the internet, so there you go. The original one seemed pretty soft, and I snapped one before I even got to 30, so I was able to get an easy out down in. So I don't think these original ones are worth reusing. I don't trust them. All right, how's that look? Pretty good. All right, one more thing. We got to get this release bearing changed. So I got to unhook the 2 springs that hold it in place. It'll slide right off, and I'll put the new one on, hook the spring up. Should be good. Let's see. What if I just grab the first loop? Yep, that worked. Hopefully it doesn't. Oops. I'll just grab the first loop again like I did the other side. Nope. There it goes. It unhooked itself. Okay. Yeah, ooh. Okay, so I got to separate it, I guess, from its little mount. There it goes. Right to the floor. Oh, I don't need to press it on at all. It just slides on. You might press the last little bit. I'll give it a whirl here. No, I think it's fine. No, it's got to go further than that. There it goes. Just popped on. Nice. There it goes. There it goes. In case you were too far away to see how that works, you can see the one spring on this side, and of course the same on the other side. Let's give this clutch pedal a little wiggle and see what happens. There we go. All right, I'm going to put just a little bit of grease on these shafts. I do want it to slide in a little easier, and I want to get a little back in there for this release bearing, so when it comes out over it, it grabs a little bit of grease. And I should have put it on when this was off, but it's going to slide out and grab it anyway, so I'm sure it'll end up working its way back in there. So, all right, let's put this tractor back together. Ooh, is that a thing? Oh yeah. that release bearing really pops out quick. So I got the clutch in, we're all good. I let the clutch pedal out or up, and all of a sudden it just pops. So I'm not sure what that's about. Alright, not what I expected. I thought that pushing the clutch a bit would stop the tractor and leave the PTO going until I pushed it further, but no, it's shutting the PTO off as soon as I push the clutch in at all. So I now don't have a dual clutch, I have a single clutch. When I push the clutch in, I have no pressure. Let the clutch out. Oh boy, something's wrong. Oh boy, what have I done? It kind of makes sense when I push the clutch in and disconnect the drive, I lose my hydraulic pump. So was that outer? Oh boy, I messed it up. Yeah, it's too complicated for me. I'm gonna have to split it again. I think what's happening, I bet you the hydraulic pump probably works off the PTO, and that secondary clutch is either not engaged on the transmission input, which it would have to be, or else I couldn't put this together, or it's got something to do with the, it's not releasing it. Wait a minute. It should, I don't know. Here's the, hopefully you can see this okay. I got my little pyrometer. I'm going to shoot at the bolt. So you see this adjusting bolt down here? I'm going to see the red light on that. So I'm not sure if you can see the lock nut in there. I got to loosen that, but they ship it with the bolt all the way out and the head of the bolt touching this flange, this tab. And I wasn't sure at the time what that was, but now it's pretty obvious what it is. That's one of the 3 tabs on the pressure plate for the PTO and hydraulic pump. So the way it is right now, and this is bolted into the pressure plate for the main drive. So the way it is right now is the second I push the clutch in, it's releasing the PTO. I have to turn this in till it's in about there. I mean, I'll measure what it is on the old one. I'll show you. Okay, I'm just going to show the red light on it, but there is a gap between that tab and the bolt head, and it's turned way in. So there's supposed to be a gap, so when you pull this pressure plate, it releases the main clutch, and then eventually you push it further, and it releases this pressure plate. So not really sure why it shipped that way. Why wouldn't they just adjust it? Someone will know way more than me. This is my first time doing it, obviously. But yeah, I'm gonna just sit there and spin this engine around and get all 3 of those adjusted to the same gap. I just have to look up and see what that gap is. Okay, I've gapped all 3 of them down there, and the best I could find online was 90 thou. So the head of that bolt is clear by 90 thou to the tab to the right of it. And it turns out the thickness of this square was exactly 90 thou. So I was just basically just sticking this down in there and tighten everything up. All 3 of them. Let's put this back together and get on with this. Okay, I came across something that is extremely important with this clutch. I had to split the tractor again because I hit the clutch pedal the first time and it felt really good, and then suddenly it didn't. It was loading up just fine, and then all of a sudden it just went to the floor and I had no clutch again. And it was like stuck in neutral. It just, the clutch was stuck in. The pressure plate would not apply pressure to the friction disc, and I didn't understand why. So I split it again and took a look, and all of these fingers were stuck in. They were, you know, where they were supposed to be. They're like all in here. So the funny thing was, I just barely touched one and they all popped back out again. And I was in a very large heap of confusion at that point. What would be making these fingers stick in? Okay, so the only thing I could do is I figure just I'm going to take this old clutch apart and see how they work. So now I got a pile of pieces on the floor, but I absolutely know how they work now. So I'm going to get to the part that's confusing me, and I'm thinking there's one of three things with the new clutch. Either it's the wrong clutch for this tractor, or it's defective, or there's a setting, there's an adjustment that I have wrong. So I'm going to try, obviously, the adjustment angle first. So here's what I've discovered. Here's how these things work. I'm just going to get right down to the pressure plate part for the drive. All right, so this is pressure plate for the PTO. Here's the pressure plate for the drive. All right, so the clutch material fits between this and the flywheel bolted to the crankshaft of the tractor. I couldn't figure out what kind of spring system is forcing this in. So when you let the clutch out, there's got to be a spring holding the pressure plate to the clutch, right? To the friction disc. Well, there's no coil springs. That's what I'm used to seeing, these little coil springs all the way around that press. And when you push your clutch pedal in, it acts against the spring pressure and releases your clutch. Well, this is your spring. Okay, so it's a piece of spring steel that, and you can probably see, I don't know, maybe, it's disc shaped. So what happens, it sits in its own little groove on the pressure plate, and then when you push your clutch in, that pressure plate gets pulled outward this way, but this inner ring sits on the permanently fixed, this is bolted to the flywheel, doesn't move. So this inner ring here seats on this. So it's actually pulling, it's squeezing this plate basically between these two plates. And it acts, and it flattens out. But its metallurgical properties makes it want to push back again. It doesn't want to be flat, it wants to be curved like this, disc shaped. So what's happening on this tractor, I'm sure, is it's overextending the spring in this plate. So not only is it you know, coming near flat, it's completely going flat. So now there's no reason for it to pop back. It just sits there flat, or maybe even curls the other way a little bit. So the only thing to prevent that is to prevent too much travel of this pressure plate coming back against the mounting plate. How do we do that? All right, so here we're looking at the new clutch. Now, that, we'll call it a spring plate. We'll just call it a spring. That dish spring. There's also one on the PTO clutch here, and you can just see it there. It's I think you can't, well, no, maybe you can't see it, but it's down in there. And it has just this much travel, that little gap there. So when the main pressure plate acts on the PTO pressure plate, it can only move it that little bit. Let's just call that a 1/16 of an inch. Therefore, its own little spring plate won't hyperextend, it functions properly. Now, the main drive spring plate has more travel. This pressure plate moves far enough to disengage the clutch, but then this bolt head acts on the PTO clutch, the dual part, the second part. So the primary clutch can have the same amount of motion, say a 16th, and then it's got another 16th it can go. So now that spring plate is moving at least twice as far as this spring plate. So the first one is moving way more than the second one. So the first one can hyperextend and flatten out and actually bend the other way. This one can't. So the only way to prevent that is to prevent how much travel that primary plate is going. This is the only thing I can think of. It's going to go that far for sure. We know that. We got to tighten this way up. This whole 90 thou is not going to be right. That's for a different clutch altogether. I just could not find the proper gap online. So I'm just going to almost tighten it up. It's going to be maybe 50 thou, maybe even 40. And I should feel it in the clutch pedal. I should feel the initial resistance from the first spring plate. And then the second one, I should feel like twice the pressure then on the pedal. So I'll know that I don't need to go any further if I don't want to disengage the PTO. That's what I'm going to do. I'm getting to be an expert at pushing this thing back and forth. So what I'm doing is pushing it in, lining it up, and just running one bolt in on each side, giving it a try on the clutch. If it pops it and it's no good, I'm just taking the two bolts out, pushing it forward again. This is a learning experience, and when I get it right, you're going to know too. And hopefully you don't have to go through this aggravation when you do your clutch on a I don't know what the serial number is. So mine is obviously the earlier clutch. They modified it, and maybe this is why they created a better clutch mid-1955, I'm assuming. I'm just wondering if too many people were getting under there, pulling the little access plate, adjusting their stop bolts, and having issues like this. Maybe. I've just never seen a clutch like this. I've never seen a spring plate like that. That's a first for me, and I don't like it. But that's what I got. Someone watching this will know what that gap is supposed to be. When it shipped, it was tight, but then that didn't give me any difference between the drive clutch and the PTO clutch. PTO clutch also runs the hydraulic pump, and so the second you push the clutch in, you lose your hydraulic pump. Well, that's no good when you're cruising along and you push your clutch in, but you're still moving. You want to run your loader, right? You need pressure on your loader when your clutch is in. So that's what I'm going to do. 40, 50 thou, that's what I'm going to go to. It's at 90 now. I'm hoping it was just ever so slightly overextending because the second time I pulled it apart, second time this happened, pushed the clutch down, it hyperextended and stayed in. Just popping the engine apart, just the little bit of a knock from it falling off the input shaft on the gearbox was enough to pop these forks out. And if I hadn't have seen it happen before, if I hadn't seen it the previous time, I wouldn't have known what that bang was. In fact, I would have probably ignored it because it wouldn't have made sense. But what that was just that little wee knock, just the way it banged, just a little bit there. All of a sudden they popped out again. I heard the sound. It was familiar to me now. I know now what that sound is. And yep, these forks were back out again. It's ready to go. It would have been deceiving. I would have thought, well, there's nothing wrong with it. I'll put it back together. But yeah, I know there is. Let's make that adjustment. Okay, that's done. 50 thou on all three of them. And I'm going to pop this back together again. If I hit that clutch and the spring disc hyper extends again, well, I don't know what I'm going to do then, because I got 50 thou there, and I don't know what it is there, maybe 60 thou, 110 thou total. If this pressure plate can't move 110 thou without distorting that spring disc, well then I'm screwed. So wish me luck. This is one of the engine bolts and I have one in on the other side. So if I push this clutch pedal down and it pops and goes loose, then I know I haven't fixed the problem. Doing just a little bit at a time. So I can feel it pushing the fingers there. So it's doing fine, but what if I go further and hit the secondary, the dual part, the secondary clutch? It popped off. Oh no, it's working. Okay, so that clicking sound is the diaphragm spring plate popping one way then back to the other. So that 50 thou gap I made, okay, so I can, there's the first clutch. I can feel it pull away, and then if I go further, it grabs that second clutch. So which one's clicking, I don't know. Now, are they supposed to click like that? Or is this just a mess? Would someone please put up a detailed video on YouTube about this thing? I couldn't find one, so this is gonna have to do for now. I have a feeling this is coming apart again. At least I'm an expert at taking it apart now. And I feel it bottoming out, so it's definitely hitting the stops and it's coming back. I'm just gonna run it. If someone posts up, no, you're supposed to have 30 thou, or no, you're not supposed to have any gap. Well, it shipped with no gap, and then I had no dual clutch. I just had a single clutch. Okay, it's all back together. Let's do a quick review here. So the tractor really has like 5 functions. It'll pull stuff, it'll push stuff, it'll run an accessory hydraulic piece of equipment like a front end loader or a wood splitter, and it'll lift stuff off the back, an implement of some sort. The 5th thing it would do is run a PTO shaft for equipment like a rototiller, or in this case, a big snowblower on the back. So for the snowblower, it uses 2 functions, the PTO shaft to turn it and the 3-point hitch to lift it. So with all that in mind, we need a 2-stage clutch. So because this loader's on here, it's really hard to see stuff. But I'm going to put my foot on the clutch and put it halfway down. That way I can drop it in first gear and I can drive a little bit. I can't go far because I put the camera right in front of the tire. All right, it's moving. Let's roll it back. Let's put it back in neutral, clutch out. That's the driving part of the tractor. Now right now the PTO is also in neutral. That's down here. Not sure if you can see that with the camera. So both things are in neutral. Both clutch discs are turning, but they're not driving anything. The transmission gears are in neutral and the PTO gears are in neutral. Now we want to work it. Okay, I just showed you how to work the drive part, but now let's work the PTO. So clutch goes back down halfway, but then it goes down even further. And now that activated the second part of the clutch. Now I can engage. The teeth never line up on this PTO. I gotta let the clutch out a little bit. There it goes. Okay, so the tractor's in neutral for the drive gears, but it's now in gear for the PTO. If I let the clutch up all the way now, that PTO is gonna turn. Now, if I put the clutch halfway down, the PTO is still turning, yeah, but I can put it in gear and drive. Now, I've hardly got any throttle on, so I don't want to pop the clutch. Now I can drive. All right. The nice thing about the dual clutch is you can stop driving and keep the PTO going, so that if you got a clog in the, you're into a snowbank or something, you can keep running the blower, but not move the tractor. And then if I go a little further with the clutch, PTO stops. I can put it back in neutral. Now I can let the PTO out, it doesn't turn. I'll put the tractor in neutral, let the clutch the rest of the way out. That's how that works. All right, that's it. So that's today's lesson on how a dual clutch works on a 1955 Ferguson 35. TO 35. Tractor, overseas, 35 horsepower. Cheers.